Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Caleb, and today I just want to explain why I think 2024 might be a little bit different than you think. And obviously the biggest thing is that I don't think the Switch 2 is going to release next year, and I'll get to that. But first, let me explain what I think 2024 is going to look like. So first of all, we know the games lineup, or at least here are the games that we actually already know are confirmed. So first of all, in January 19th, another Code Recollection. These are remakes of DS and Wii games. So that's going to be, the very first month of the year. So, they got that figured out at least. Next month after that, Mario vs. Donkey Kong on February 16th. So, nice little remake of a game. That's fine. Princess Peach Showtime. That's actually a new game. March 22nd. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Another remaster. That's coming in summer. No confirmed date for that, but summer probably between June and September. Then Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. This one, we don't have a date for, it just says 2024. However, given the fact that Luigi's Mansion 2 HD had a release window, we can at least assume that this is probably coming after that. So probably sometime in July or later. And I would guess probably between July and October is probably where I think this is going to release. So probably is like August or September. That's my guess. But those are the only confirmed games right now. Of course, Nintendo likes to announce things closer to when they release. So here are the things that I think could potentially release next year and like have time, they line up for timing for next year. So first of all, Fire Emblem 18. In case you guys are unaware, I believe the newest Fire Emblem game, I forgot the title of it. Point is, that one was called Fire Emblem 19 in the code, and I think Fire Emblem 17 was 3 houses, right? So they skipped over Fire Emblem 18. And as far as I know, that it's probably done by now, given the fact that 19 is already released, so they're probably just sitting on Fire Emblem 18. And this wouldn't be the first time that Nintendo has just been sitting on a completed game. But anyway, this game is rumored, I believe to be rumored, like a remake of Genealogy of the Holy War from the Super Nintendo, I think. If not, I might be confusing with something else. But regardless, the next Fire Emblem game, the next mainline Fire Emblem game, should probably be releasing next year. Additionally, Mario Party seems to line up, because we've only had 2 Mario Parties on Switch so far, and the last one was a few years ago, or a couple years ago, so I think this kind of lines up with that, and plus NDQ, which I think develops Mario Party, should be gearing up for their next game anyway. Same thing with Mario Sports. Mario Sports game, I think that's Camelot. Their last game, I think, was Mario Golf Super Rush, so yeah, it's been a little while. So I think they could release a new Mario Sports game. Could be like a Mario Sports Mix type of thing, or it could be, another Mario Tennis game or Mario Sluggers or something like that. It'd be nice to have more variety. However, given sort of ironically, there might be too many Mario games if these 2 are included, plus all the remakes and stuff that we already know about. I mean, obviously, if, like I said, the Switch 2 is releasing, in fact, in 2025, then having a sort of safe year for like a final year of the Switch kind of makes sense. But yeah, overall, I think in general, people think 2024 is going to be the last year of the Switch. Obviously, even if it releases in 2025, it's still the last full year. So having safe games like that kind of makes sense. Additionally, we have an annual release, The Legend of Zelda. Yeah, some people might not realize that Zelda actually pretty much releases annually. Oh, but it does. It very, very rarely has skipped a year. Obviously, this year we got Tears of the Kingdom. Last year we actually didn't get anything. That one skipped a year, unless you want to count like Majora's Mask on Switch Online, but I don't. But in 2021 we got Skyward Sword HD and the Zelda Game & Watch. In 2020 we got Age of Calamity. In 2019 we got Link's Awakening. In 2018 we got Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. While not a brand new game, it's still a Zelda release. And of course 2017 got Breath of the Wild and its DLC. And of course I can keep going, but you get the idea, right? Zelda is basically an annual franchise for the most part, so I would say we'll probably get something Zelda next year. We could finally get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Of course, I think those would be released separately. It'd be nice to get a bundle, but I don't think Nintendo would do that. Anyway, so yeah, probably a Zelda game. I don't think it's going to be a major release. It might be like a spin-off or like I said, a port of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, so I think that'd be pretty good. And then Pokemon. Typically Pokemon game releases annually as well. This one, I think, will probably be a mainline game, because I don't know if it'd be Gen 10 or not. Might be another remakes or something else, maybe like a Let's Go type of game, or Arceus. So that I think could release. Of course, this year we did get Detective Pikachu Returns. the quality of that game in question. However, the previous year we did get Scarlet and Violet, so... and I think we're still getting Scarlet and Violet DLC, right? Maybe I'm confused about that. Point is, mainline game probably next year. Also, next year, I think we'll probably finally get Metroid Prime 4. It has, of course, been 5 years since the development was restarted in 2019, or at the beginning of 2019. Of course, even beyond that, even 2 years before that, it was when it was announced. Of course, like I said, they restarted development in 5 years. Even if, like I said, some people might be wondering why it takes so long for Metroid Prime 4. Obviously, yes, they restarted development, and 5 years is a long time. However, you have to understand that Retro Studios, while they did make the original Prime games, nobody from the development of those games works at Retro Studios anymore. So they had to basically learn how to make the games again, which I think was the point of Prime Remastered, is to learn how to make Metroid Prime. And getting into that, Prime Remastered, I had always had the thought that if they were going to re-release the Prime games, they would be within a certain period, basically very soon before Prime 4 comes out, just to get people caught up on the franchise so they're more interested in Prime 4. And going along with that, I think they'll also release Prime 2 and 3 on the Switch. I don't think it's going to be like the scale of Prime Remastered. I think it's probably going to be like Pikmin 1 and 2 on Switch, where it's just the original games, like just running in HD on the console, basically no changes, pretty much just ports. Because Prime Remastered was developed by Retro Studios, and they completely missed the demand of that game. They completely underestimated how well that game would do. So I don't think they would have had put time into making 2 and 3. I don't think they would have scheduled that at all. So I think they'll probably have just done, Prime 2 and 3 just as ports. But yeah, so those are the things I think would probably release next year. Of course, there is many more options for things to release, and that doesn't count like licensed or published games, like a Square Enix game or something like that. These are just first-party Nintendo games. So that aside, what else could I think happen next year? Of course, there's rumors and speculation going around about a Switch Mini, and I think a Switch Mini would actually make perfect sense. Of course, we do have the patent, which basically describes what it would be. It just says a miniaturized version of a console, right? And of course, it has a different layout for like the triggers and stuff, sort of like how the new 3DS is, with they're sort of lined up instead of one on top of the other. And of course, if the Switch Mini is smaller, I think they would probably replace the Switch Lite. So again, I want to get more on that in a sec. But the Switch Mini kind of makes perfect sense, because if you look at Nintendo's history, aside from the GameCube and Wii U, all of their consoles since the turn of the century have had a new revision around the time that the successor is released. So of course there was the DS had the DSi XL release in 2010 and the 3DS released in 2011. The Wii had the Wii Mini in 2012, like right around the time the Wii U came out. Of course, that was a Canada exclusive at first, eventually released later elsewhere. And then there was also the 3DS had the new 2DS XL. So that released like a month after the Switch, I think, or a couple months after the Switch. Now, of course, like I said, in these examples, for the most part, they released after the successor released. However, given the fact that the Nintendo Switch is its most successful console they've ever made, I would say, at least in terms of like sales numbers, obviously in terms of sales, like units sold, the DS is ahead of the Switch. However, the Switch could still technically surpass it. And in terms of revenue, the Switch is the highest because it has the highest attach rate for any of those consoles anyway, I believe. Anyway, additionally, there's also the fact that, like I said, the DS being the most successful of all those, its successor, or the new model, released a year before, whereas the other ones released a year after. So the Switch Mini makes sense here, especially if they're going to squeeze as much as they possibly can out of the Switch before the next console comes out. Also, I was trying to think of a game to sort of pair with this, because the Switch Lite released with Link's Awakening, and the Switch OLED released with Metroid Dread. So I was thinking, okay, what game that we know of could match with the Switch Mini? And I think Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I was talking about with my friend Bo, Mario vs. Donkey Kong actually does make sense, because the Switch Lite for Link's Awakening, that was originally a Game Boy game. So having a console that's, portable only, that kind of coincides with the Game Boy game. I think that makes sense. Metroid Dread is sort of somewhat of a hardcore title, you could say. So that kind of makes sense for the OLED, which is more of like hardcore audience sort of geared. Mario vs. Donkey Kong makes sense for the Switch Mini because that was originally a GBA game. So it's sort of like a small scale game. So I think Mini make perfect sense for that one. Of course, that would have to mean that they announced the system soon, and they could very well announce it in January, a month before the game comes out. So I think that would work perfectly fine. Now, let's get on to the thing that you all probably really wanted to learn about, the Switch 2. So I'm not going to get super into depth on why I think it's 2025, but here's a couple points. First of all, we'll know if the Switch 2 is coming out next year by the end of April, because Nintendo has to announce to their investors if they're releasing a new console in that year, investors need to know about it. So we'll know by April. And of course, that's sort of what happened with the Switch. They said, okay, well, the next console is going to release in March of 2017. They said that in April of 2016. So I think we'll know if this console is releasing that at that point. And if they say, okay, well, it's coming out next year, at that point, basically what I'm saying is that we'll know when it's coming out by the end of April. And I think, like I said, March 2025. That makes the most sense. I'm not going to get into it completely, but to make a simple point, it's going to be the same fiscal year, regardless, in my opinion, as if it was released in November or if it was released in March. It's just 4 months difference, and it's the same fiscal year, so that makes sense. And like I said, they're going to milk the Switch as much as they can. Most successful Nintendo console, yada, yada, yada. But the thing that I want is like very interesting about it is, like I said, I think the Switch Mini is going to replace the Switch Lite. And I think what's going to happen is by the time the Switch Mini releases, let's say along with Mario vs. Donkey Kong, they're just going to discontinue the Switch Lite. I don't think they're going to sell it anymore. They're just going to sell out however many units they have, because the Switch Mini will probably be just the same thing as the Switch Lite, but smaller. And of course, I don't think it's going to be able to dock with a TV. So it's just going to replace the Switch Lite. And I think that they'll probably, keep selling those three systems, Switch Lite, Switch OLED, and regular Switch, up until the release of the Switch 2 in March 2025. And then at that point, they will discontinue the regular Switch and the Switch OLED. So basically, they'll only have two consoles out that you could buy, which would be the more premium, the new console, the Switch 2, and then their cheaper system that you could buy is the Switch Mini, because that seems to be what they like to do. That's what they did with the Game Boy Micro, like I said, the Wii Mini, and the 2DS XL. So I think that would be a good choice to do. And of course, like I said, they want to have a cheap option, so I think the Switch Mini will probably be $200, and the Switch 2 will probably be $400. So I think that's probably a good option. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm totally off base with this? Do you think it's still coming out in 2024? And what games do you think are going to release next year? Do you think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a launch title for Switch 2? Do you think it's not even going to have released? Do you think it's going to be canceled? What other games do you think could possibly come out? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Debate me, tell me when I'm wrong, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.